Welcome, everyone, to another awesome episode of the Average Ontario Anglers Fishing Podcast. That's the AOA PODCAST. Yeah.
What?
I, I'm not good at spelling. But what I am kind of good at is reading questions off of the internet, which is what this episode is all about because we have another AOA Q&A. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, and I am very excited. How about you, Jesse?
I'm equally excited. I think it's been like 6 months, people. And you know what? I actually had recently more than a few people ask when the next time we were going to do one of these was. And I said, I don't know. And then we decided to do it today.
Well, I'm glad we did. And we had a lot of support. Jesse had some requests to go up online on our Patreon. It's always the best spot to keep up to date with us. And also some from Instagram as well that we were able to get from the stories. So we have a lot of questions. We will do our best to get through as many as we can. But first, I hate to say it, but Jesse has an interesting fishing fact, and we have to hear it first.
The last few interesting fishing facts that Andrew handled were all about weird insects.
You're welcome.
Yep. So today I thought we'd actually learn an interesting fishing fact about fishing. So this past weekend was, holy smokes, it was a hot one, man, wasn't it? Last weekend I was camping out on Lake Erie. It was like 40 degrees every day. I was sweating like crazy. Like I was literally dripping with sweat. And it got me thinking, like, we are affected by the heat. We hate it. Most people hate it. But how do the fish react? And I was actually, go ahead. Andrew's laughing.
I just wanted to say the same weekend Jesse was out fishing and camping. The one day on the Saturday, me and my wife and her friend went up to the Toronto Zoo and like talk about reacting to the heat. Like it is, we're drenched in sweat, but they have these like misting stations. Like a hose, like spraying mist of water, and I felt like a lizard, just like, oh, misting station, like wander over in front of like a line of people and just trying to get like, it's just mist blowing on my face.
It was so hot. Like, just to add to that, like we were camping and me and my wife were lying. We have these cots in our tent. We were just lying there at night and sweat was like rolling and dripping off my body. I was like, oh my goodness, this is not enjoyable. Actually, we packed up and left the next day because it was just brutal. But anyway, I was bass fishing that weekend, and we're going to get more into that in our story time. But it just goes to show the water was soupy. It was well over 80 degrees. And it got me thinking, like, how do bass, particularly because we're in summertime right now, are they affected by the heat? So that's what our interesting fishing fact is about today. We're going to talk about fishing for bass in hot weather, just like last weekend, probably this weekend, and the next few weekends generally, right? So some quick context about bass biology. Now, this may be obvious to some of you, but a lot of people are just getting into fishing, so this may be something new. So bass are what, Andrew? Cold-blooded or hot-blooded?
Cold-blooded.
Or sorry, I meant warm-blooded. They're hot-blooded. Yes,
check
bass.
It and see.
Yeah, bass are cold-blooded, which means that their metabolism increases when it gets hot, and when things are cold, their activity level goes down. So that may seem pretty obvious, but how does that affect your fishing? So you may think, as the water warms, hot water holds less oxygen, right? So you may think, okay, these bass in general, like largemouth, they don't mind hot water. I mean, we're fishing for them in sometimes like 6, 7, 10 inches of water in lily pads and stuff, and you're still catching them. So obviously their activity level is still there, but there's some areas that will help you catch more fish if you can target these areas. So hot water, like we explained, it actually holds a lot less oxygen. So bass are going to go to specific areas to be more comfortable. They're looking for food, they're looking for comfort, and they're looking for breathable water, because not all of those three things are going to be the same thing, right? So you may think, oh, when it's hot, the fish may go deep. And that may be true with some species of fish, but largemouth, like we said, they're known to be, if their back's wet, they're happy, sometimes in 6 inches of water, right? So fishing shallow, you may think, where would you fish? Now, shallow water is productive. Obviously, one place you're going to look anytime you're fishing shallow is shade, right? If you have a dock in the water and one side has shade on it, the other side doesn't, I'm going to pitch to the side with the shade in it, because you have to remember, I always say this to people, bass can't wear sunglasses and they can't close their eyes. So they need shade, or else they're just going to be like raw dogging it, looking at the sun. It's not good. They don't like it, right? Now, another thing is they're looking for oxygen. So in a lot of the times in shallow water, when you're fishing for largemouth, for example, they're in lily pads, they're in bulrushes, they're in milfoil, all this thick green oxygenated weeds. Weeds produce oxygen. That's another reason why they're going to be in shallow cover. And the third reason that they're going to be in shallow cover as well is because that's where the bait is. Now, I was out fishing yesterday. I was canoeing through some really shallow water, lots of vegetation, and you probably see this all the time. You look down, and you just see everything in the water, right? You see all the schools of minnows everywhere, bluegills darting in and out from under the pad beds, frogs, dragonflies, like all kinds of stuff that bass want to eat. Now, Andrew's mad that I mentioned dragonflies, because he was talking about how majestic they were last podcast, and I'm talking about how bass like to viciously eat them.
That's fine. The circle of life, buddy.
Exactly. So we're dealing with areas with high vegetation, a lot of oxygen, and a lot of shade. Think of lily pads too, like we talked about with Dave Mercer. Underneath the canopy of the weeds, you have shade, and it's actually quite a few degrees cooler underneath those lily pads. Now, how do you catch these fish, Andrew? What is your main lure when you're fishing that kind of situation? What is the main lure you have tied on? Yeah.
For better or for worse, a frog.
Yep. Again, we'll get into this a little later, but I was fishing a really shallow area of a Kawartha Lake yesterday, and sometimes that's your only option. Like, you can't even flip some of this stuff or punch it. It's too thick. You're just like, all right, there's only one option. It's to go right over top of the stuff with a frog. And I had 3 rods, and I was using my frog rod 90% of the time because it flat out works. Now, another thing about metabolism is when the water is warmer, the fish's activity level goes up. So how would you say, Andrew, that affects the way that you're going to fish, like speed wise?
I would speed up, because they're looking for like it, that it changes the activity of bait fish. Bait fish, their metabolism is also sped up, so they're more active, which means the bass are keyed in on other active things, is what I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another way that you can catch more fish in these situations is fishing in certain times of the day. So we oftentimes think, what's the hottest time of the day? Usually between 11 and like 4 p.m. Those are times maybe it's best to, take a nap at your campsite or go back, and just relax and not try to like hardcore fish through those times. If you have that option, if you're just going for the day, that's probably not an option. But early in the morning and in the evening are oftentimes the best times during these super hot dog days, because, it's slightly not as insane. And on the plus side, you won't burn your face off when you're fishing. So low light times are great. Overcast, or if you ever see those days, when it's really, really hot and you're like, oh man, it's going to thunderstorm because it's just so humid.
Mm-hmm.
During those times, like, don't go out in a thunderstorm. That's bad advice. But like those times when you get like a little downpour, which happened to me yesterday, it dumped rain for like 10 minutes and then it stopped. And then, dude, the fish were just blowing up. It was insane. So that's another thing. Here is a hot tip for you. The 1-2 punch. What is that, Andrew?
That's a fast bait. You find the fish, you get a strike, but it misses. So you follow it up with a more finesse or slower presentation that gets them to key in on it. Often the second 1-2 is like a fast frog, and then followed up with a Senko.
Absolutely. So with me, I usually have on a frog, and then on my other rod, I'm going to have like a flipping bait with like a 3/8 ounce sinker, something that if a fish blows up on it, I can whip out a Texas rig bait. And I'd say like not all the time, but a lot of the times you'll catch that fish, usually. And oftentimes if you hook them on the frog or they hit the frog and miss and you cast back again, sometimes they'll hit it, I find. But usually I'm going to pick up that other rod and dunk it in, and usually you catch that fish, which is pretty cool. So the final takeaway of this is it is very hot. I would like to add one more thing. Make sure you guys and girls out there are drinking plenty of water or Gatorade or electrolytes, because yeah, Andrew's got a Gatorade right there. You need that stuff. I know when me and Andrew were, younger and dumb, we used to be like, oh, we'll grab a bottle of water, we're fine. Now we're just bringing massive jugs of water with us, because that sun just sucks the energy and moisture right out of you. So make sure you have water. Make sure when it gets hot, don't forget you can still fish super shallow. Just make sure that you're smart about it. Fish the right areas, fish the right shade, the depth, make sure you're using the right baits. And remember, the cool thing is you can be fast when you're fishing frogs. You don't always have to just slowly fish them slow and just kind of weasel them through the pads. You can fish them pretty fast because when their metabolism is just firing on all cylinders, those bass are aggressive. Sometimes this has happened to me and Andrew so many times. It's so exciting. When you check out a frog, hits the water, you twitch it once or twice, and you just see a wake 20 feet away just swim towards it. Like they're swimming 20 feet to hit that frog when they're aggressive like that. So obviously if you're not catching fish, slow down a bit. But I start off working really fast. And Andrew and me, we fish slightly different. I'm a power guy, but I know when Andrew has a frog in his hand, it's very hard to get that out of his hand.
Absolutely.
So, oftentimes we slow down a bit in the heat, but don't forget, the bass don't. They stay hot. So tie on a frog and go to town, boys and girls.
Well, I like that. I did like that interesting fishing fact. Again, it's timely. It's summertime. You're going to be fishing on those hot days. But I will say, Jesse's always complaining that my interesting fishing facts are about like weird, creepy things. But I don't regale you with stories of sweat dripping off of my body while I'm trying to nap in a tent. So let's take the lesser of two evils here, people.
You're welcome for that vivid word picture I've painted for you people.
Sorry, you had to see that.
Yeah.
So we're going to move right into our main topic, which is actually a bunch of small topics because it's the AOA Q&A. And I'm not sure which, version of this Q&A we're on, but it's got to be at least 6 or 7.
I think it's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I always have fun on these. So we're going to try and move through them as fast as possible while actually still covering, hopefully the answer that you were expecting, or maybe one that is at least funny but unexpected. So we're going to start off first from Mark Peregrino. Oh, and by the way, if I mess up your name, it's not my fault. Your name's just spelt weird. So Mark asks, what are some gear and tackle you regret buying? Or things you've bought that you never ended up using or just used once and regretted it?
Oh.
That's a really good question because I know I have. What about you, Jesse? What is something that you've regretted purchasing?
There's too many things, honestly. I just feel like to generalize, like I know he's probably looking for like specific things, but to generalize, it's just like it's too many lures. Like I oftentimes don't regret buying more rods and reels. I'm like, okay, have a backup, have an extra one. But when it comes to like lures, especially like musky lures, you look behind me, like I buy, you buy this, you buy that, you pick some up on Kijiji at a tackle swap, and you end up accumulating all these lures that generally speaking, you're never going to use. Like when you go musky fishing, you're using like 5 lures, maybe all day, right? Your confidence lures. Mm-hmm. And all these lures, they just sit on your shelf or in your box and you never use them. And they're expensive too. Like musky lures, like I'm not buying like boutique stuff, but like they're, you're buying a musky lure, it's $30, $40, $50, right?
Yeah.
And you just accumulate, right? Same with like flipping baits. Like I'm a sucker for buying like flipping baits. I'll go into like Gagnons or like wherever. And I'm like, oh, these look good. Green pumpkin. It's not like I don't have 20 packs of those at home from different brands, right? And I'm really trying hard just to be like, do I need this or do I want it? It's like, kind of both. And then I put it back. I'm so happy. But yeah, I'm bad. I just pick up little stuff. And oftentimes the worst thing is I'm not as organized as it looks. So I'll be like, oh, I don't have any, 3-aught EWG hooks. And I'll go to the store and buy a pack, and then I'll come home and I'll find like 2 packs at home that I already had still, sealed up from the last time I thought I didn't have any. So I think I need to be more organized and try not to buy as many lures.
Yeah. I have a couple contenders for some of the things I regret the most buying. The first one that came to mind, which I do still want to use, is an umbrella rig, or an A rig, I should say. I bought one of those. I really want to catch on it. When I bought it, I did not have a heavy duty enough rod to actually use it properly because it has so much drag in the water. You have to set the hook with like 15 spinner blades in this thing.
Yeah.
Like you need a stiff rod. So I couldn't throw it for a long time. And anytime I want to go use it, I have to like rig up 4 separate jig heads and put on, plastics and then clip them all on and then tie it. Like I just don't bother. I just throw in a single swim jig and it works. So yeah, that's one. A specific lure that I've bought would be I bought a sledge, but the floating kind, and
Oh,
yeah, it just pops up like a cork. Jesse just got one. He's pulling it off the shelf here,
look at the
and it's the
size of this
sinking.
guy.
So nice. Is that the
Yeah,
11-inch?
this is the 11-inch, and listen to this.
So
This
that
is like a broomstick.
the sinking ones are awesome. I know a lot of guys love them. I have I think it's like the 8-inch like floating, and
Yeah,
it's like a piece of cork. I'm like, I can't fish this.
yeah. You jerk the rod down, and the thing jumps out of the water.
It is so buoyant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I went to the store and I said to the guys, like, are these sinking or floating? Because my buddy bought a floating one and it's a piece of junk. And he was just like, no, they're all sinking. Yeah. I was like, what a moron. I don't know why, how dumb that guy was.
but and the last thing I quickly say is the reel that I regret, a rod and reel I bought at Bass Pro. It was a combo, a Browning baitcaster combo that I got on sale in one of those, BPS spring fishing sales. It was
Yeah.
like $35 on my first baitcaster, and if I wasn't throwing something that was an ounce, I couldn't cast more than 10 feet with the thing.
Yeah.
It was not good.
To be fair, though, that was like 20 years ago.
Oh, it was. It was like it was still somewhat early for like general use bait casters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did not. I didn't like bait casting for a long time after
I know.
that. And it's
He has
next up.
lots of trauma.
I know, I love him. Next up is from Zack Attack 2006. Tips for slow bluebird sky. Where are the fish? Well, Jesse kind of already hijacked that one with his interesting fishing fact. So you got a real good answer, but did you have anything else you wanted to add, Jesse?
Yeah. So I always think, like we covered this maybe last year we talked about like the difference between a bladed jig or like a chatterbait and a swim jig. And I feel like a chatterbait is something that a lot of people want to fish, but if it's flat calm, you want something more subtle. Bass aren't always looking for something obnoxious, especially when it's flat calm. If we're just talking about bass, but you have to think, like I said, fish can't close their eyes. So when it's flat calm and it's sunny, they're going to be buried in weeds. So they're going to go deep to where the sunlight can't hit them as much, or they're going to bury themselves under a tree, under a dock, under weeds, something like that. So you may have to fish deeper, like the outside edge of the weed line and fish down, 10, 12 feet, or go super shallow underneath cover. And then if you're fishing like sparse cover, maybe not use something that's crazy flashy. You just want something more subtle. The fish seem to be more tuned into, soft plastics, Texas rigs, instead of baits that are like, spinner bait or chatterbait. You got to finesse it a bit. Like, it's not really a term you hear so much with bass, more like I grew up steelhead fishing. So it's always like, oh, when the water's low and the fish are finicky, you got to really, finesse them, like use thinner line and a smaller presentation. But the same goes with bass. So you may want to, pick up a finesse rod or use something not as crazy like a chatterbait or a buzzbait, just a little less crazy.
And I find on any day time it's a tough day, and that kind of goes for really cold days or really hot days is reaction baits. But on a hot day, I would usually go for a larger. Like if I'm putting on a jerk bait, I might go for a larger one because they might be keying in. Again, the fish are feeding more. Their metabolism is fast. They need to eat more. So maybe a larger presentation, but still a reaction bait, might do well. But yeah, jerk baits on tough days is you have to start throwing them if you don't already.
And like to add to that, like musky fishing is known, like a lot of baits, like when it's flat, calm, and sunny, you won't see a lot of guys fishing like a bucktail. You'll see them fishing, like Andrew said, a reaction bait, like a suic, like something that dives down, jerks down in front of them and floats up, or like a glide bait, as opposed to fishing something that, looks like the fish can get a good look at it. The water's super clear and flat. They're like, they can tell what a bucktail looks like. It looks like nothing because they can get a good look at it. But if it's something that just causes them to react, like a glide bait just swings in front of them and swings away, it's like, oh, they just grab it. Give them no time to think or force them to bite. That's what we do. We just force fish to bite. I love humans. We figure out things like that. We're like, the fish aren't biting. We're like, hold my beer. I'll show you.
We have next one from Paul Evans, our good buddy Paul.
Ooh.
Top 3 stick baits. Go. And I'm like, aren't they all the same? You might think so, but it depends what you're going for. I mean,
Yeah.
Gary Yamamoto, the ex Senko, is catches fish, but it's not as durable.
Yeah.
So does that rank in your top three?
Not mine personally. I'm going to break this down into two halves. I'm going to break it down into locally made ones and then ones that you can find at any store. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we'll be like, oh, we like this locally made one. But if you're heading up to the cottage or camping and you have to just hit that random Canadian Tire, they're not going to have it.
Yeah.
So for general like I find with Yamamoto baits, they are phenomenal baits and they work exceptionally well, but they're not durable, like Andrew said. So if you're fine blowing through a few packs of baits that cost $11 a pack, go for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like my favorite stick bait, and probably Andrew's for a long time, was the Yum Dinger.
Yes.
They're $5 a pack. I think they're $6 a pack now because of like.
And if you like one color, I know Brad Scott, the Canadian Cowboy Outdoors, he's like, oh, I like this one color, and he just goes buys the 100 pack of it. Like you can get the bulk bags of those Yum Dingers. It's like, all right.
I think they have like a bulk pack at Gagnon's.
Yeah.
It has like 10 bags in it, and it's like $40. I'm like, yeah. And it comes in like 4-inch, 5-inch. One of my confidence baits for years was a 4-inch Yum Dinger. Just that little size. I don't know what it was about it. But Yum Dinger's good. One of my other favorite ones is the X Zone True Center Stick. Another like super reasonably priced, made in Canada, great patterns and stuff like that. That's the thing, like Andrew said, like they're all so similar. So like I just feel like just pick one that you like and just go with it.
The Z-Man ones are nice as well. Again, like they have their place. Most of the time for a stick bait, I don't go for TPE plastic. Most of the time, it just has a better action when it's not. But depending on what I'm fishing, if I'm using if I wanted to go down deeper, I'm putting a weighted on, I want to cast it further, and I can use TPE, which they are salt impregnated, but they are lighter, more buoyant overall, or it doesn't sink as fast. Put a weight on that, and again, super durable. So if you don't have, I'll usually keep like a pack of those, because if I run out of my little rubber rings to have them tied on or something like that, I know I'm not losing them. I'm not going through a whole pack and okay, these are easy just to rig up. So they have their place as well. Ring. Yeah, not on the Z-Man ones.
Yeah. For those, and then for the local made ones, again, if you can support a local bait maker, that's great. Wham Baits, the Woblin is it's a unique one because it's kind of like fat in the middle, gets thinner and then it gets fat. So it does have a really cool action, right?
Pro Water Baits came out with a really cool one last year, and it actually has an O-ring inside the bait, and so there's a specific hook point you go. You can also glue in little ball bearings and like turn it into a Neko rig, or just like weight along the length of the bait. So it's actually probably one of the most versatile, like ready to go stick baits on the market is from Pro Water Baits. Those are nice too. Yeah,
I got a pack. I haven't tried them yet, but they look legit. Yeah. If they're anything like any of the other baits that Vic makes from Pro Water Baits, they're going to be fantastic. Actually, I was out fishing yesterday, and one of my favorite punching baits is that flipping bait that he makes. I forget what it's called, but it's the one with the little tentacles on it. I just love flipping that in there. The punch and munch. Yeah. I punch with it. But yeah, Vic makes great baits. Another one I have a bunch of is Limestone Lures. He makes a really good stick bait. Just a traditional one. He has all my favorite colors, and he has bubblegum, which I mean, you need bubblegum stick baits. So yeah, honestly though, like I'd say pick a color. And I think with most things, you don't have to go crazy with the colors. Green pumpkin. I've done well on like just black, and then bubblegum when it's cloudy out. But if I can only have one, green pumpkin.
And just to finish off our three for the local manufacturers for them, Limestone Lures has got some pretty interesting colors on his as well.
Yeah.
Next up,
just buy them all.
We have Be Like Us, own 35 different packs of stick baits
and catch
in 2 different colors. Next one is from Andrew McKay _29. I'm not sure how old you are now, but you were 29 when you made that, Instagram handle.
He's like, I'm 42 now.
He was born in 1929. Anywho, he asked chatterbait or swim jig. Which do you throw first?
Chatterbait.
Yeah, chatterbait, again, unless, like Jesse already mentioned, unless it's flat calm, I will throw a swim bait first.
Yeah.
Jig, but
yeah. It depends. Like they're similar looking baits, but they're very different. Like chatterbaits, I view them more like crankbaits because you're covering water with them and you're ripping them through weeds, right? But you wouldn't want to chuck those around timber or like heavy, thick weeds because they'll just snag because they have an exposed hook. So like a swim jig is like the 4x4 of jigs. You can chuck it in lily pads. You can chuck it through anything and it'll come through. So like I was fishing pencil reeds and rice this past weekend in Lake Erie, and a chatterbait would just snag up that stuff. You're just like ripping it through, getting snagged. But a swim jig just slides through every time. I didn't snag once. And I was catching bass in pencil reeds and stuff like that. So it really depends. I'm a big swim jig guy, but I like whacking them on it. There's something about a chatterbait. You just feel like the rod tip moving. You can feel it in your reel sometimes as you're reeling in, and all of a sudden it's just like it stops, and then all of a sudden there's just weight. You're like, oh. It's awesome.
I'll tell you a big reason why a chatterbait is the first thing I throw. If as long as it's not, like I said, as long as it's not something I can't throw a chatterbait in, that's usually the first thing I throw. And that's because when I arrive at the lake, I have my rods rigged up with leaders, whatever. I try to have that done the night before, but I only have one bait that's currently tied on, and that's a chatterbait, because I want to keep the rest of my hooks away from the cats I have running around the house. But when I arrive at the lake, I have a chatterbait that just stays on that rod. So the first cast of the day is always the chatterbait because it's already rigged up for me.
Yeah.
So that's always pretty much the first thing I throw.
I think too, like of combos that I have specific rod and reel combos for, I'm really trying to get away from that. I hate when you pick up a rod and it says like Texas rig. It's like, okay, I get it. It's specific rods, but like, I feel like that really just throws off a lot of people. They're like, well, I can't chuck a frog on this. Yeah, you can, you know? So I don't like to have specific combos. I like versatile combos. I have a lot of rods that literally say versatile on them. They throw everything
with a flipping stick.
Oh, straight to jail. But that being said, I feel like of specific combos, if you're a serious bass angler, you know, like a frog rod combo is probably going to be one that you own. It's a rod that does that and pretty much has a frog tied on it and it stays tied on. But a chatterbait combo is another thing you should probably own.
But in a chatterbait combo, will throw crankbaits really well. Chatterbaits are just crankbaits that are a little bit heavier with a bigger hook. Yep. So you can throw your good sized crankbaits and chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, all those crank, for the most part, you can straight retrieve those things. You can just crank it in. That rod is perfect for it.
Yeah. I also throw big topwaters like ploppers on a bladed jig rod, because bladed jig rod has a little more give to it. So if you're reeling in a big whopper plopper or chopo and it's like blah, 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 and the bass blows up on it, my reaction is to pull it right out of his mouth. With that chatterbait rod, it's a little more limber. It gives me a few seconds and I hook them up better. Plus there's small trebles inside the fish's mouth. So having a rod that's a little bit more flexible, it really helps you not lose as many fish, in my experience.
Next up, we have a question from the chicken. And I'm assuming this is still an actual human, but it just says the chicken.
It is a human, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
He did win a giveaway, so either there's a chicken out there in the past that won a bunch of fishing lures, or it's a human.
He's just pecking at a bunch of like gamakatsu hooks like a box of corn. After we're dissing our listeners, let's ask the question now. It says, if you had to pick just one setup for hot, sunny, calm days in the middle of the day, what would it be? And we kind of talked about already, stuff we recommend, where to look for. But we are fishing the worst time of the day on a hot summer day, flat calm. What are we going to throw?
I've got a good scenario for this.
Okay.
One setup for each of us, Andrew, but we're fishing together. And we're fishing that place I told you about yesterday.
Yep.
So if me and Andrew are frog fishing in shallow water, in lily pads and weeds and stuff, one of us is going to be chucking a frog and one of us is going to be flipping. So why don't you take the frog setup? I'll take the flipping setup.
I 100% will take the frog setup because Jesse's way better at flipping than I am. And I don't know. It's a confidence thing. I don't know. I don't have success. I don't have as much success with flipping.
But it's all fine because I pull frogs out of fish's mouth and Andrew doesn't as much. So it's equal. All right.
And if you're going for any other species, I would say, like we already talked about, I'd be tossing a jerkbait. That's if I'm not fishing heavy cover for largemouth, I'd be tossing a jerkbait most likely if I have the availability to do it.
Yeah. But, so for what's your frog combo though?
A frog combo?
Yeah.
Well, I like the one I currently have. I got a Mojo Bass flipping stick, 7.6, I think.
7.4.
7.4. Jesse knows my rods better than
me.
It's
actually that rod is actually the Sloppin' Frog. It's a 7.4 heavy, so it's literally perfect.
And then I've got that paired up with a Daiwa Tatula XV, or not XV, the SV T-wing. Yeah.
Yep.
And that one, that's my 30-pound braid for frogging, and probably tossing scum frog, or I've actually really been liking the new Lunker Hunt Forensi mouse as well. So probably
Yeah.
one of those two.
Yep. And for me, I actually have my flipping rod right here because I was going to talk about it later. But see, we fish out of smaller boats. So a lot of guys will fish like a 7.5 foot heavy rod. This is actually a 7'3" heavy rod, but it's 3 inches shorter, which honestly, it's not a big deal. I gotta feel like, oh, you're using that little short rod for flipping. I'm standing in a canoe basically at water level.
Yeah.
I do have a 7.6 heavy, but I find these shorter rods are slightly better for me. This is actually the Victory, St. Croix Victory. It's a 7.3 heavy, but it's a moderate fast, so it has a little bit more of a bend to it. I've actually got a Daiwa Tatula SVTW 100 on there, 40-pound braid, and I'm just flipping little creature baits. And it's a great, like we talked about in an interesting fishing fact, the 1-2 punch, frogging and then flipping. And there's a lot of spots where, I can't flip a bait 50 feet out, but Andrew can cast a frog that far. So it'll be like, oh, there's a log. He'll cast there. And then there'll be a pocket at the front. I'll flip it. So it works out pretty good. And usually if you see one's working better than the other, because sometimes they won't hit a frog. Sometimes you can't catch them flipping at all. So you'll quickly figure out, hey, Andrew's caught 4 fish on a frog and I've caught nothing. I'm going to tie on a frog. So you can figure it out. But yeah.
And next off is Christoph Pluta, which I'm pretty sure I nailed at least your first name, because I used to know a guy named Christoph. Spelled the same way, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So he asks, I've been fishing drop shots a lot. Any other finesse baits you recommend? And like, this is good. Again, finesse, we talked many times before, in the world of bass, finesse is where everything is heading, right?
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind, I think, when you think of drop shot, is what's comparable would be Ned rigs. If you haven't been fishing those, give it a shot, depending on the bottom structure or what forage is around. Like if let's say you're going for smallmouth and they're keying in more so on stuff on the bottom like crayfish, like gobies, a Ned rig might be producing a bit better than something that's sitting a foot, 2 feet above the bottom itself on a drop shot. So both are useful to be good at if you haven't done the Ned rig. The second one I would recommend is just a small swim bait, like literally a 2.5-inch paddle tail on a ball head hook, a ball head jig, and just that's a really nice finesse, easy to use presentation.
Yeah, and I know seeing this guy's message, he was talking about Great Lake Finesse too, and I feel like if you're using Great Lake Finesse, that's probably where you should stay, because they make phenomenal stuff. I mean, they're like the apex of finesse baits, right? I mean, they have so many good ones that are super popular. Like they have little swim baits now.
Craw Ned rigs.
They're
so good.
The Juvie Craw, all kinds of new stuff. I mean, it's also iCast this past week, and all the new baits are coming out, which we haven't seen yet because it hasn't happened yet. But when you listen to it, it will be. But I feel like there's lots of brands, like Great Lakes Finesse is amazing. And I'm going to link below. We actually had a whole podcast last year with Dan from Great Lake Finesse, and he talked about all the baits at that time that were available and a lot of tips for bass fishing, smallmouth bass fishing specifically. But I feel like there's some other brands too, like X Zone, which is also made in Canada. They have their Stealth series. They have a bunch of really cool finesse baits. They have a bunch of baits that are designed by Cooper Gallant too. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. A lot of baits that work really good. I've been using a lot of X Zone for years. They have a lot of really good Ned baits. They have, just a lot of cool they have this one, it's called the Invader. Look that up. That's pretty cool. But yeah.
That not Kitech, that's a plumbing term. What's it? I'm trying to remember what it is. Help me out here, Jesse. They're usually soft, like much more softer, I find. But it's like that Japanese brand of soft plastics, and they have a lot of finesse ones as well, little paddle tails and stuff like that. It's not
G-Crack?
No. I can't remember. Brian likes to use them. He's using their paddle tails.
Kitech.
Is it Kitech?
Yeah.
All right. Kitech is also the name of a pipe that is bad, and if you have it in your house, get rid of it. But
if you have it in your tackle box, use it.
Perfect segue. Next up, we have a real lady has written in. That's right. We have actually a real lady writing into the podcast, not just a bunch of dudes out there listening to us. That's just cool.
Nice.
So she asks, best freshwater fish to catch and cook based on taste and difficulty of prep. Do you have a preference, Jesse? As someone who isn't the guy when we're together who fillets the fish and cooks it, do you have a preference when you have to do it yourself?
If I have to clean fish myself, which I'm not terrible at it, but I'm not amazing because I don't do it that often. But I like walleye as much as the next guy or girl. They're just super easy to clean. Like it's literally like cut meats off, take the ribs off. That's my favorite. Or perch, like something like that. But I have to say, underrated wise, channel catfish.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly say, like, of all the shore lunches we've had in the last 5-10 years, the best one was the channel catfish. Absolutely.
I just had it again at the cottage.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
So brief rundown on that. That was actually my thing was catfish. Bullheads, you catch some good. If you know a place that has some like good sized bullheads as well, you can eat those too. They're also very good, easy to clean. But channel catfish, if there are channel catfish in a good population in a lake, get some chicken liver, get some circle hooks, use like a loop knot to hold the liver just a bit better, and a slip sinker. Super easy to do. You'll have a crazy good fight. You hook into like a 9-pounder that we caught at the cottage just a few weeks ago, and I'm not like the fight itself lasted. I'm not joking, about 5 minutes, and that's using a rod designed for like with a bait runner reel, like a size 4,000, like full like heavy action rod. I use it for casting for salmon too, and like the catfish are muscular, so you have a great fight, fun to catch. Cleaning it, the first time I kind of was going to clean a channel catfish, I was nervous about it. I watched videos and people online are saying that they're hard to clean. I'm here to tell you that is absolutely false. I find it, at least personally, the easiest fish to clean. Watch a YouTube video on it. A lot of the belly meat you don't eat anyways because it's doesn't have has an off flavor to it, but easy to clean. There's no pin bones. So once you go down to the ribs, fall off the ribs, that's done. There's no pin bones you have to pull out after. Cut it thin, bread it in some fish crisp Cajun seasoning, deep fry it, slap it on a bun with some like dill aioli or something on top, garlic mayo. We had some caramelized onions on there this year, which was like really good. So yeah, super easy to catch, super easy to cook, and one of the most best tasting fish out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Snid686. Any thoughts on the hype of soft, fuzzy dice baits? And there's actually another Garth Holst wrote in asking about dice baits. Are they gimmick or are they legit? What do you think, Jesse?
They definitely work. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're popular. A lot of baits people were like, oh, it's a gimmick. It's like, it's not. a lot of brands, like on the iCast leaks, like last year, there was a bunch of dice baits that came out. This year, every brand has one. Like Strike King came out with one. Gary Yamamoto came out with one. Z-Man came out with one. X Zone came out with one. Every brand has one now.
Yeah.
I feel like with fishing trends, like we had on Travis from Tackle Bros last episode, and he was like, oh, I had these before they were available and they were slamming fish. Like anything else, once it becomes popular, it will lose its effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Fish will generally see, they'll see it all the time now and be like, not impressed. Like they'll know what it is. They learn to a certain extent. Think of baits like Chatterbaits and even Senkos, right? They'll always catch fish, absolutely. But imagine being that first guy in the lake that has one. Like back in the day when like Chatterbaits first came out, Brett Height, who was like the guy who helped design the jackhammer, he was like slamming. Like he is probably one of the best chatterbait fishermen ever. And he won like $100,000 like very quickly, and the amount of money he's won off chatterbaits at the beginning was insane. But now it's more like they still catch fish. It's still a tool to use in your arsenal, but it's not like it used to be. And I feel like with fuzzy baits, they'll probably be good for a few years, but after that, now that everyone has access to them, because before it's like, oh, only these certain Japanese companies have them and they're expensive, but it's like now Z-Man has them and they're going to last forever because they're made of Elastec. You can buy a pack at the store at your local Canadian Tire probably and pick them up now. So they'll catch fish, absolutely. Andrews, you've been catching fish on them for a few years now.
Yep. And I find a lot, there's so many now like small plastics that have the silicone like threads through it, right?
Yeah.
Like skirt material, and that's all it is. I will say, if you are using dice baits, make sure you don't put the hook through the side that just has the one on it when it's an actual dice, because you don't want to be rolling nat ones when you're casting. So that's
It's actually funny because I was looking at one of the iCast posts, and Yamamoto, one of the biggest soft plastic manufacturers, they released a whole line of the fuzzy baits, right?
mm-hmm.
As they're calling them. So they have like a little, small, I think it's called the fuzzy nut, and it has a bunch of little things coming out of it.
And
But
they
then
all look the same.
oh yeah, but then every other bait that they already have, you think of baits like the Senko, most popular soft plastic of all time. They have a fuzzy version of it now. They have a fuzzy version of the Yamatanuki. They have a fuzzy version of like every single bait that's popular. So it's just going to become a normal thing. It's funny. I was watching the Gary Yamamoto one, and they said these are why these baits are effective, and they explained it, and as if they know this, but they're like, oh, when bass are small, they feed on plankton, and that's what plankton looks like. So when the bass is bigger and it sees that same silhouette, it doesn't have the ability to reason. It's not like, wait a second, that plankton looks huge. They're just like, oh, that's food, and they eat it. Maybe that's the case, or maybe they're just lying to us that we buy baits we don't need.
Yeah. I'm sure they are, because I have bought a lot of baits I don't need.
Yeah, it's true. So have I.
Long Branch 1943 asks, what is the best lake in Ontario to fish? And why is it Lake of the Woods?
I haven't been there, so I don't know. I hear a lot of good things about Lake of the Woods.
Yep.
I hear a lot of good things about a lot of the lakes up in that area in Northern Ontario, right? Like Lac Seul.
That's a dream lake I want to go to, is Lac Seul.
Yeah. But you know what? I'd say the best lakes in Ontario are just not popular lakes, but there's lots of little lakes that you can find that, like some of the best lakes that me and Andrew fish, they're within 2 hours of Toronto, and they're full of fish. They're not popular lakes. We found them, and they're not impossible to find lakes like that. And we can go up there and run into maybe one guy fishing. And last time we went to this particular lake, we caught 70 bass in 6 hours on this back lake. And it wasn't just like, a portage in. It had a boat launch, like,
yep.
There are lakes out there, and don't think, oh, I got to get up to, Lake of the Woods, because like realistically, me and Andrew are never going to fish up there, right?
Yeah. I hope to
one day, but we got to fish. We're weekend warriors, right? Yeah. We're going to fish on the weekend, so don't get fixated 23
on hours
is
quite the trek for a day trip.
Yeah. I give this advice to a lot of people that ask me. I'm not going to give you lakes because it takes a lot of time to find them, and I don't want to see them blow up and get like 50 people on them. That's the whole fun of fishing, is finding lakes. But maybe spend 1 year. Throw 1 year away. Who cares? Throw 1 year away, wasting your time looking for lakes, and I guarantee it'll be worth in the future for you. That's what me and Andrew did the last few years. We were like, instead of going somewhere that we know is good, we're going to try this lake. And guess what? It sucked. The next time we went fishing, we're going to try this lake, and it sucked. And then we try another lake, and it's amazing, right? Yeah. Try lakes like that.
Yeah. And
don't tell anyone about them.
And, to the guy who wrote in that question, he's saying, why is it Lake of the Woods? Well, have you ever fished Casa Bonica Lake? It's a fly-in lake. It's even further north in Ontario. I haven't either, but I bet you it might be better than Lake of the Woods. It's just harder to get to.
Have you ever fished the ocean? Just kidding. That's not a lake.
I think James Bay is the best lake that's in Ontario for fishing. All right, next one is from Blue Minnow Angling. Thoughts? And this guy's been building together a boat. If you have a chance, check him out on Instagram. He's done a lot of, like, built his own tinner, modified it a lot, kind of like what I was doing. Him and I had a few discussions, and he's got a nice build actually on that tinner. So Blue Minnow Angling, thoughts on a 9.9 to 15 horsepower carburetor upgrade?
Yeah.
Now, for those,
there's only a few brands you can do that with.
Yeah. So for those who are perhaps confused by that question, what you can do is you can take a 9.9 horsepower motor, change the carburetor on it, and now it's outputting 15 horsepower. And the reason why is because a lot of the manufacturers, not all, and it used to be a lot more popular, but they have the same motor, same lower end, everything, and it serves them for their 4 horsepower up to 15 horsepower, 9.9 to 15 horsepower. It's the same motor from 2.5 to 6 horsepower, and it's just different carburetors on them to give more and more power.
Mm-hmm.
So can it be done? And on some models, yes, absolutely. In some models, it's very easy to do so. Let's be honest here. Should you? If a lake is only rated for 9.9 horsepower, and if someone actually knew what you were doing, and you are over that, you could get dinged. You could get dinged hard.
Yeah, but realistically, no one's ever going to know.
But yeah,
That's
it
not
is
me
very
saying you should do
popular.
it.
It's very popular, and I mean, I might want to do it if I had one.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
So I think the most popular brand right now, because like I have a Suzuki, and Suzuki, their 9.9, 15s, and 20s are exactly the same motor, right? So a lot of guys will buy the 9.9 and they'll upgrade it to even a 20, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely doable.
Here's the thing. The cool thing about it is if you're asking, will it work? Absolutely. And it's not putting strain on the motor itself. So like, it's not like it's unhealthy for the motor to do that because they use that motor in the 20. It is sized for that. And the only part you're changing is the one part that's different, and they put on different stickers. So yeah, like it's, if you want to go for it, absolutely, man.
That just makes me mad though, because here's the thing. All motors, they should just cut out the 9.9s and 15s. They should just have one. They'll call it the small motor, the medium motor, and the large motor. So you say you buy the small one, and the small one, the 4, 5, and 6 are all the same motor. They just give it slightly more power. So you buy one, it's called the small motor, and then there's a switch at the bottom that says 4, 5, or 6, and you switch it to whichever one you want that's rated for your boat. So like say I put it on my Sports Pal and I didn't want to rip the transom off, I put it on 4 because I don't want 6. And then I put another boat, I crank it up to 6 and it gives me more power. Same with the 9.9 to the 20. It's a medium-sized motor and you get to pick the horsepower depending on it because they're just scamming you. It's the exact same motor and they want like $1,000 more for the 20 than the 9.9, and it's the exact same motor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's petition people for medium-sized motors. I'm going to make an outboard company called Medium Sized Motors for average anglers.
Average motor for the average angler. Jesse's also apparently going to invent a nanotechnology shape-changing carburetor to be able to serve for each of those powers, which is really cool. Jesse is really smart. He will 100% get that done. I give him a span of 8 months. It'll be on market.
Yep. Me and my best buddy, Tony Stark, he helped me out a
bit. Jesse built this in a cave with a box of frogs. All right. Next one, after my silly rambling and jokes, is from a bum's bait shop. Abums? I'm not sure. See, might say it wrong. I probably said it wrong. A bum's bait shop. I'm going to say it like that just because it's funny. I apologize if it's wrong, but that's what I said. Can you talk more in depth about reel gear ratios? What's best for what? So yeah, so each reel, let's take bait casters, right? As an example, you can get them from like a 5 to 1, 5.1 to 1, which means every time you turn the handle once, the spool has spun 5.1 times. And you can get, there's a Revo Rocket, which is what, 11 to 1? So again, you turn the handle once, the spool has turned 11 times. So what are some of the benefits for wanting a higher, again, this is all subjective to people's preference, what they like and don't like, but what are some advantages or benefits to having a high gear ratio? And what are some benefits to having a slower one, Jesse?
So like slow to me is like 5 to 1.
5,
even 6, like 6 to 1 is kind of slow now. Any bait that has a lot of pull or drag when you're reeling it in, you're going to want something slower. It'll make it easier to pull it in. So like say you're talking about musky fishing and they're pulling in those like big double 10 or double 12 bucktails. If you've ever tried to reel those in, it's hard. Like you're trying to crank it because they have so much pull in the water, right? So I have a 5 to 1 and then I have a 7 to 1, and I notice considerably way less effort to pull in big bucktails on the 5 to 1. So a lot of guys that fish like crankbaits use a slower gear ratio because they have a lot of pull.
The lower the number, the higher the torque. Yeah. Insert truck noises.
But if you're trying to fish like a fast lure that has to stay on the surface, like a buzz bait, you want to use something fast, right? Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you're going to be cranking your reel like crazy just to keep it on the surface, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people like a fast gear ratio for like flipping because you can flip in fast, jiggle, reel, pull it up. Same with frogging, right? So it depends. I've really come down to using like just a few gear ratios, like for bass fishing anyway, like 7-1, I find is just like,
Mm-hmm.
it does everything. Like I can frog with it if I have to, I can chuck spinner baits with it, I can fish plastics with it. Generally, I think the rule of thumb is if you're working the bait with the rod to pull it in, like plastic bait or anything like that, you can use a really fast gear ratio because you're just pulling in slack. But if you're reeling in a bait from the reel, like a spinner bait, a crankbait, you want something slightly lower. But if you can't decide, just get a 7-1 and you're good.
Yep. Yep. And that's one of the things too. Like I said, people have their preference. I forget who we were talking to about kind of gear ratio, what they like. And let's say you're fishing heavy cover. Some people like to have a lower gear ratio because it's like a winch. It has all that torque. So if they hook into a bass and it buries itself in the weeds, they can just keep cranking and pull that thing out. Whereas someone else fishing that exact same heavy cover may say, I want the high gear ratio because I'm going to crack that bass, lift his head up quick, and just ski him across the top of the surface with that high gear ratio. So there's pros and cons to both. It depends on your style that you want to go for. Next question from Dylan T. Most overhyped lure. And I think before we said, things like anything from Guggen. Like
Guggen Squad they kind of fell off. You don't really hear anything from them anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. If you like their baits, good for you, but I guarantee you can find something better from other brands. I challenge anyone to change my mind on that.
So let's try and pick one instead of a brand though. Let's pick one specific lure.
Overhyped.
Yeah. It's tough because some get a lot of hype, but it's due. Like Senko's, they're overhyped, but man, they work. Like
yeah, I was gonna say dice baits.
Really. Dice baits, maybe. I would have to say that's a really tough one. I think it depends. I know individuals who overhype stuff. Again, you might look at us and be like, you guys overhype chatterbaits. We probably do. It's something that we really like to fish though. Or someone who's like, I love frogging. And some guy's like, whenever I do it, I don't catch on it and I miss fish and I lose fish. And he's like, that's overhyped. I think I can't choose one because the stuff that I might overhype is the stuff I literally catch the most on. And to me, it's not overhyping it. And I just might not have my ear to the ground enough to know what everyone else is saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
I don't have a good answer to that question because I feel like, like you said, I don't like finesse fishing, so I feel like overhyped baits are like a Ned rig. I feel like people just overhype and are like, oh, the Ned rig always catches fish, blah 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 blah, but it does. So I can't really say that it's an overhyped bait. I don't know.
That's an interesting question. If we think of something later, maybe we'll just bring that up again. Okay, Dylan?
Fail.
Next one is from Jake Hessian. Have you guys ever done a fly-in fishing trip? And the answer is no.
We're average. We have no money.
Would I like to? Yes. But
yes.
Can't afford it yet. With that in mind, let's do a bit of housekeeping. For those of you who are on Patreon, that was funny. Anyways, just so you don't think that we're taking advantage of any of our Patreon members, our Patreon members who we really appreciate, and I will say with a big thank you, they help essentially keep the lights on to the podcast because they help cover the expenses that we go through every week. So we really appreciate you. And unfortunately, we are not at the stage of being able to treat ourselves to a fly-in yet, but soon. Maybe in a few years. Next is from Japes Fishing. Have either of you caught an Arctic char? And
no, I wish.
I revert back to the last question. I have not done a fly-in fishing trip yet.
Imagine if I was like, yes, I have.
You're like, I was at the Bass Pro Shops tank one day. From Christian L. Have you fished outside Ontario? Where and what was it like? Why don't you go first on this one, Jesse? We both have a little bit.
Yeah. I guess one example, I fished in South Carolina a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Did some saltwater fishing just from shore off the beach. Definitely fishing saltwater is a different animal. And I know a lot of like saltwater guys would be like, oh, you freshwater guys are wussies. But I just think like saltwater fishing is it's very basic from what I see. Like, I know there's obviously some types of fishing that's more like very similar to freshwater fishing. Like say shore casting for striped bass is very similar to shore casting for Chinook salmon. Very cool.
I thought you were going to say shore casting for striped bass, but in the Miramichi River. Like, it's the same species, same thing. Just but it moved from the brackish water to the freshwater.
Now it's lame. But I just feel like saltwater fishing generally is just like getting a chunk of bait and dunking it in the water, and there's all these fish just eat it. Like, it was cool. I caught a baby shark. That was pretty cool. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I mean, I like all types of fishing. I don't care where I'm fishing. I'll fish in the salt water. I'll fish anywhere. Yeah, it was cool.
I talked about it before on the podcast, but I've done some fishing out on the East Coast in Nova Scotia. I've tried saltwater fishing. I have not been successful. But I have really, and again, that's just like from shore and stuff. I'm not too familiar with that myself anyways. So, but I did some freshwater fishing out there, and it was a blast. Like, if you get a chance to go out into the Maritimes and fish some of these freshwater lakes out there, it's like going either 10 hours north into Ontario or 30 years ago or 40 years ago in the Kawarthas. Like, you go and you're just casting spinners and spoons, and like, that's what's working, you know? It's so cool. Full of like really good smallmouth bass out there. The chain pickerel, which are kind of invasive moving up into the waters there from the eastern states. But they're like a mini pike. Like, they're super fun to catch. I caught some of those in the fly rod. I did some brook trout fishing in some like small streams that just like dumped 40 feet off like cliffs down to the ocean. Like, it was beautiful out there. If you do have a chance to do that, I 100% recommend it. And like I said, the fishing is easier out there. Way less pressure. Way less pressure. It's cool.
Yeah.
Next one from Jamie. Where do you see the show progressing from here? I see another episode in a couple weeks.
I think we've peaked.
This is the first. We're on a downhill slide right now.
Yeah. After we had Dave Mercer and Jay Siemens, we can't. It's just downhill from now, guys. Sorry. Yeah. You know what? This year's been great. The first year was kind of like every week we had a podcast, the first 2 years, which was, I don't know how we did it. It was insane.
Yeah.
Too much work. Again, we don't make any money off this podcast at all. All these people are like, oh, you must make money. We don't. We make no money off this. We just do it because we enjoy it. And a lot of people will message us all the time. So if you haven't messaged us and you want to, definitely do it. Because we get messages all the time of people that are like, oh, you guys inspired me to get back into fishing or to do this. I was talking to this guy, Connor, today, and he bought this. He listened to the podcast where Andrew was talking about his boat build. And this guy, Connor, bought an old Johnson Seahorse, and he's fixing it up. And he's like, oh, this is so fun. I'm excited to see if it runs. He's like, you guys inspired me to do this. And I was like, that's amazing. So we do like the fact that we are, giving back to the community a bit. And this year particularly, just having all the guests, like every episode. This is the first episode that's just me and Andrew, and we're just doing that because it's summertime and we have vacation stuff. We can't be plugging away getting all these guests and stuff. They're busy this time of year, but it's been a great year. Like, every episode we've had some kind of either guide or like a local hammer. Dave Mercer, Jay Siemens, like those guys, like, come on, like it's insane. Who knows where it'll go from now? Maybe we'll retire. Who knows? Maybe we'll just, actually get to fish more next year. We'll see. But I don't know. We're just playing it. We're having fun with it. It's the way it is. If you have any suggestions, let us know.
And the podcast is like, as for right now, we have plans to continue it. Which, I'm sure will put your mind at ease from Jesse's comment about us retiring. The temptation is there. But
Average Ontario Andrew show starting next year.
And our viewership goes down to 1. Thanks, Dad.
He just plays in the background. He doesn't actually listen to it.
Yeah. But we, other stuff for our social media, and especially on YouTube, we do want to put some more effort towards our YouTube as well. So that's kind of where our next focus is for progression. I Catch Dinks asks, how does it feel having a podcast in the top 5?
The top 5 worst podcasts.
It feels the same as, when you ask us, did you ever think we'd get this far? It's like, no, I didn't think we would. But it's cool that we're there. It's cool that we've come this far. And we're still having fun doing it. And like Jesse said before, we're very grateful for when people message us or let us know how much they appreciate it. That's fantastic. It helps keep us motivated too. Yeah.
And I don't know where he's getting his stats, because the rankings and charts change every day, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool when you look in the wilderness in Canada podcast charts, and we release a podcast, and every week, especially with all the good guests, we're on the top 5, which is insane. It'll be like meat eater, average Ontario anglers. Like that blows my mind, because it doesn't just have to do the rankings. I've had a few people ask, other podcast guys are like, how do you guys rank so high? Because they have much bigger podcasts than us. And podcast rankings, they're based on a lot of things. They're not just based on how many downloads you get. They're based on how long people listen to your episode. They're based on how many reviews you're getting. They're based on like the interaction of your actual podcast. So that just goes to show you that like the listeners that listen to this podcast, like you're listening to the whole episode. And we get people all the time like, I can't wait for the next episode. We listen to the whole episode. We love it. So they're not like, I do this all the time. I'll listen to parts of an episode of a different podcast. I'll be like, oh, this is fun. And then like 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this is boring. And I click to the next one, right? That's not how you rank high. You need to have a good, loyal listenership. And that has nothing to do with us, it has everything to do with you listeners. So we do appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking of cool guests that we've had on, Jesse. I know who we need to try for next. Steven Ranella. We're going to take some of his viewers from him ranking higher than us all the time.
Meat
and
eater.
Start moving him down.
We've ranked 2. We'll never rank 1. Meat eater has like, I think like 1.8 weekly downloads. Million weekly.
1.8 million. Yeah.
It's just like
not 1.8, 1.8 million. We
have 1.1, but literally just 1.1. Not million, just 1.5 persons plus a decimal.
Super 71 asks, sunrise or sunset? Favorite time on the water?
Favorite time? Sunrise. Favorite time to actually catch fish?
Most productive? Sunset.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I was out on Lake Erie and the sun was coming up. It was flat calm. Absolutely gorgeous. But the older I get, the less I like waking up at like 4:30 in the morning, especially in the summer. And I catch way more fish in the evening, especially muskie. And a lot of times bass, but there's something to be said about that. It's very special, the mist coming off the lake early morning, and you have a whopper plopper jitterbug, and you're fishing for bass, like one of those like lakes up in Halliburton or something. Oh, it's nice.
Next one is from Daryl B, one of our lovely Patreon members. What's the best piece of fishing advice you've received? Would it be from your grandpa, just to let it drift?
Yeah. Honestly, I'd say probably. He told me those things when I was very young, probably like 5 or 6 years old. But if you think about it, that's good advice. So what he was saying is, present your bait naturally. No, that's how I see it. And he used to say, I'd say, is this enough worm, Grandpa? And he'd be like, oh, that's enough to choke a horse. Like, you don't need a whole worm. And what he was telling me realistically is that I was just going to have a bunch of chub peck off my whole worm. But realistically, he was telling me to adapt my presentation to be more effective. My grandpa was a genius. Little does he know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah. I learned a lot from my grandpa. It's more just observing him, though. I guess the best piece of advice that I ever received would probably have been from a fishing book that I read years ago. And it was... it taught me about dead sticking, and that's something that I've done like a long time. I've had it as an interesting fishing fact before, as a TNT, but being able to work a bait and just like pause, and sometimes pause it for longer than you would ever think to do so, and that has caught me more than one of my personal best fish over the years, is that technique alone. And it's something that growing up, I just tossed crankbaits the whole time. Cast, retrieve, cast, retrieve, cast, retrieve. And that first time of being told to do something a little different, that was huge. Opened my mind up to so many other techniques that are out there, and not just, relying on the one that I did.
Yeah. And one more piece of advice. I forget who told me this, but a wise man or woman or alien once said, fish don't care what you're holding in your hands. Don't worry too much about the gear. Use the best gear you can afford. Don't literally think you're not going to catch fish if you're not, chucking an $800 combo. Fish don't care. How many people have you seen catch a giant bass off the side of the road with an ugly stick? Doesn't matter. Use the gear that you have. Don't focus on, the fact that you're going to need something expensive or else you'll be at a disadvantage. Just fish with what you have fun, dial your presentation. That's more important than the actual gear itself. And we've talked to tons of people. Like we were talking with Brian from Halliburton Fishing Guide, and he said that he's like, fish don't care. Like they literally don't care. He's like, just throw your bait and catch fish. That's it. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Fish don't care what you're holding in your hands. Go ahead, eat that banana. We have a few questions here. Some of them we've discussed before, like Taylor had asked different techniques for flat, calm, sunny, hot days. We've kind of like talked about it a few times. Devin asked power fishing or finesse fishing. Jesse and I have our preferences. Jesse's power, I'm finesse. And we fish well together because of that, because we find out what's working and then begrudgingly the other will join in doing whatever technique that is. Tom asks, how long do you stick with the bait before switching? This question has come up before.
Too long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think before we've even mentioned stuff like it depends on the day. Like if you are fishing, if that's a confidence bait and the fishing is slow, you might try a few different things, but if they're not biting anything, just do what you think is best. And it may be sticking with that one confidence bait the rest of the day. But if you're fishing one spot, then yeah, fish it till you've covered whatever water you can effectively cover with that bait and try a different bait.
Yeah. Because sometimes I think, say like you're musky fishing, for example, if you're using like a lure, like say like a Suic, or just a lure that's generally effective in any situation, and you're not catching fish, it's probably just because the fish aren't biting or you're not around fish. So you shouldn't just be scrambling to change your bait every 10 seconds. Just focus on finding an active fish. Same with like frog fishing. Like when you're bass fishing, you're frog fishing. If you're casting frogs over a massive area of lily pads and you're not catching anything, you have to think like, how many bass have I probably pulled a frog right over top of? Probably a few, right? So at that point, I'm going to be like, maybe I'll chuck a jig or flip a plastic in there. So make adjustments, but try to avoid just being one of those guys or girls that's just like every 5 minutes you're trying a different lure. Just stick to what makes sense at the moment and then adjust accordingly after that.
We'll do a couple more questions because we are running a bit long. So what we'll do is we'll save some of these for the next Q&A. But
next year.
You can only make that joke in the December episodes, Jesse.
Okay, sorry.
But we'll do a couple more. So the one is, what's an underrated fish that nobody targets in Ontario? That's from Gabe. And I picked this one because I have a suggestion, but I want to see if Jesse has one in mind.
I have two. And we covered this with Matt Barton a few months ago on the podcast, in the episode called The Art of Multi-Species Angling. Mm-hmm. I'd say it would either be the bowfin or the gar. For me, I'd probably pick the bowfin. I feel like no one fishes for them. And they're the coolest fish ever. Like they are legit super cool. Like if there's a way to actually specifically target these things year round, like in the summer, I would do that. I know there is to a certain extent, but it's not the same as bass fishing. Bowfin are so randomly spread out. It's not like you can like specifically target them effectively. Mm-hmm. They're more like, oh, there's randomly one, right? But bowfin for sure. They're probably the coolest fish.
I really want to catch those too. For me, I was thinking more so along the lines of like growing up when I was fishing, something that no one ever talked about. It's only stuff that I did once I was really trying to learn how to like fly fish and stuff like that, was fishing for chub. And like out in Europe, like chub, the numbers, they pretty much got outfished to extinction out there because people would eat them, and they're delicious. I've done it as well. But they're basically like little pan-fried trout, but they are super plentiful, super aggressive, always feeding. They're like the sunfish of the creek world.
Yeah.
And if you have kids, and let's say like you don't have access to a lake for shore access or something like that nearby, or you're having difficulty, you're even finding a spot, you want something that's more secluded, check out some local creeks around you, go in the summer, and I pretty much promise you there's going to be some creek chub in there or some horny head chub. And those things, they're a blast to catch. You can just catch them with bread on a hook. So it's great if you have kids and stuff to target some of those. It can be just a fun afternoon. Or if you want to learn how to fly fish, at least you can catch some chub on some little nymphs, learning how to fly fish, getting wind knots every 2 seconds, rather than just being, casting a bit of yarn on an empty field. It's up to you. The other question is from Cameron Muty. What's the biggest body of water the Sports Pal can handle?
Safely? I mean, we've done some sketchy crap in that
Atlantic Ocean.
We have had that thing on Lake Ontario salmon fishing, close to shore, river mouth style. And on a calm day, I don't think that's any more unsafe than fishing in the Kawarthas. You just have to be smart about it. Don't go out in bad wind or if you haven't checked the wind forecast, because one rogue wave crashing over the Sports Pal, and it's not a kayak, it will literally fill with water.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to a guy on Instagram today, he messaged me about the Sports Pal, and I was like, there is advantages of using a Sports Pal over a kayak, but there's also advantages of having a kayak. Like, it's pros and cons, really. I tell this to people, like, the Sports Pal is great. It's super cool. It is designed for small bodies of water, and that's where it excels. Like, if you're in a small, like, lake, pond, river, back lake, there's nothing better, in my opinion. Like, in a back lake, the Sports Pal is like the best. It's amazing. Any big water where you could possibly have a big wave come, or a jet boat whip by you, or like a wake boat, avoid. There has been some very sketchy situations that me and Andrew have been in where a boat will whip by us and not slow down. We'll have like a 5-foot wave come at us, and the boat like half fills with water, and we have all our gear and electronics. If that thing flips over, you're going to lose everything. So use some common sense. Even the Kawartha lakes, if you're familiar with those lakes, the bigger ones, I stay around the edges. I'm not going to go in the middle of the lake because things can whip up very fast. The wind can come out of nowhere. Like yesterday I was fishing, it was flat calm. All of a sudden this big storm rolled through and it started thundering and raining and stuff just out of nowhere. And I didn't even see it coming. So just be careful. Always have your life jacket on too. In a boat, sometimes you won't wear your life jacket. You'll have it on your seat. But in the Sports Pal, always wear your life jacket because, dude, you could fall off the side just standing up wrong. It is stable, but, it's still a canoe. Remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that does it. That does it for our questions. Again, we have a few more, and I do want to get to them, but this episode has ran longer than expected.
Let's do one more.
We know. One more?
The wild card. 32.
32. Okay.
This is a good one. Ryan
Smallgange. Opinion on people eating bass. I don't like you. I have done it. I have no shame in saying that. Like, if I have a preference of eating a pike or a bass, I'll eat pike any day. But preference of pike or walleye, I'll take walleye. If there's crappie, I'll eat walleye. Like, bass is not high on that list of fish I love to eat. But if we go camping and stuff like that, and we're on a bass lake and that's all there is around, 100% I will have a nice little fish fry and fry up some fresh beer battered bass. It's delicious.
And to be fair, like you mentioned, if I'm fishing like fun fishing in the Kawarthas, like one of my locals, I'm not going out there to keep bass. That's just myself. You have the privilege of owning a fishing license to keep your limit of bass. That is something that you can do. But I feel like if you do keep fish, you should do so ethically. Like, maybe I was just saying this to some guy I was talking to at the boat launch the other day, because he kept 4 bass, and that's totally fine. Your limit is what, 5 or 6 bass in zone 17.
License, yep.
I was like, he asked me if I caught any fish. I said, yes. And he's like, oh, can I see them? And I was like, oh, I threw them back. And he's like, why? I was like, oh, I just, I fish for fun. I was like, what, maybe you'll catch the fish next time, And he's like, oh yeah. And he showed me he had a stringer with 4 largemouth on it. And I was like, okay. And they were all 1.5, 2 pounders, like good size eating. But you don't want to do that every single time. If you're fishing all the time, it's so easy for a lake to get fished out, especially the popular lakes. If you go out every weekend and keep 6 bass every weekend, you're not the only one doing it. Like, it does put a dent in the population. I feel like a lot of the lakes around here anyway, they don't have enough fish for a sustainable harvest. That's just my opinion. And that's based on no actual science. This is just based on me talking to fishing guides that are on the lake every day and see the numbers declining. I feel like the limit should be lower. I feel like if you want food to feed your families, sure, go for it, but just make sure you keep in your limit. Also, the possession limit means you're
I
allowed
was
to keep.
just about to say that.
So what? Explain the possession limit.
So
So many
possession
people
limit,
do not understand what this
yeah,
means.
possession limit is not a daily limit. We used to always call it, oh, your daily catch limit, and blah, blah, blah. And you go out backcountry camping, and it used to be a daily possession limit. Now it has changed over a number of years ago. It changed to just a possession limit. So if your limit for zone 17 is, let's say, 5 bass, and you keep 5 bass and you go out tomorrow, you have 5 bass in possession in your freezer at home. You are legally not allowed to keep 5 more bass. You're not allowed to keep 1 more bass. So that the possession limit is anything that you are in possession of as an angler. Whether it's not, doesn't have to be on your person, but if it's at your house, you are in possession of those fish. So that's what has changed. And then I know a lot of people, they just didn't know that had changed years ago, because they're used to, back when they were, in their 20s camping on Algonquin Park, coming back with their limit of 5 trout and staying for a week, and they come back with, like 30 trout. Like, perfect. I was here for this many days. I have this many fish. But it has changed. So there's no longer a daily limit. It is a possession limit.
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to add is, again, I have nothing against people keeping fish. I don't do it a lot myself, but we do keep the odd fish. But if you do keep fish, that's fine. Like I love seeing pictures of people and they're showing me a fish and it's on a stringer. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's great. One thing that kind of I know a lot of times it's just because of lack of education, is people that keep big bass or any species, like a big walleye, big bass. Don't keep the big spawners. When it comes to bass, like when we're camping, we'll keep like a 1.5, maybe a 2 pounder. We're not keeping 4s, 5s.
Yeah.
And people do it like, oh, I caught this 5 pounder. They'll put it on a stringer. And it's like, that bass is like 15 years old. Like, they don't just magically grow the next day
and
the next year.
That bass is probably a big female, and it has 4 times the amount of young every year that it spawns, as opposed to another bass you could have caught.
Yeah.
And again, legally, can you? Absolutely. Ethically, it's up to each individual to do what they think is best. And we're not here to make rules at all for you. Just if you are curious about what Jesse and I, like I said, we have self-imposed slot limits that we try and keep in. If we're going to keep fish, just because for various reasons, either, again, we don't want to keep the huge ones, the big girls. We also want the ones that taste the best. So in many lakes, you'll find, for population reasons, they'll have a slot size on walleye. Very, very common across Ontario. For us, we'll usually keep, like if Jesse and I, let's say, go camping and we eat bass, about 1.5 pounds. It has to be under 2 pounds for us to keep it. Under 2 pounds. And usually you want it to be at least 1 pound, though, so it's worth the effort of filleting it. So usually between 1 and 2 pounds, somewhere in that range, is when we're going to keep it. And we usually keep one each, because we'll have it for dinner that night. And once you fillet, you've got about 1 pound of meat each bass, and you fry that in oil and batter, and you have a side, some noodles in the side of it, and we are stuffed to the gills, no pun intended, but like we're full with just 1 bass each on that, and usually have leftovers. So but again, that's just what we normally do. Same with pike. Like, I try not to keep pike more than 32 inches long, but I like to be at least 25 inches long before I start having to fillet that thing all the Y bones. But those are, again, self-imposed slot limits that we like to keep in mind. So I would encourage you, before your next fishing trip, if that's something you want to do, just have in mind what you want to keep, and then do your best to try and stick to that. And that's going to be, props to you. That's highly commendable if you are willing to do something like that for yourselves. So for this episode, I was talking to Jesse earlier, and I was saying we haven't had a giveaway in a while. Jokes on them. Well, there isn't.
We
one.
Actually,
Just kidding.
We had a giveaway the last 2 episodes, but okay.
Well, we didn't really talk about it on the show, so it's been a while since we're like, hey, by the way, and there's something I'm very excited about, which we've done recently, is we have AOA merch now. We have hats, so we have a limited supply of them. 2 colors. It's like a charcoal. This one, same patch on it with a nice loon. Average Ontario Anglers with our loon logo. It's got charcoal with a black mesh back and navy with a white mesh back. And just so you guys know, these things are very comfortable. So they have a full snapback on the backside. So what we're all used to with a mesh back, but it also has the flex fit. So this thing I know for me, I'll get like a bumpy ridge in the front of my head when I put on a fresh new hat because it hasn't like stretched to fit my head perfectly. These things have that bit of flex with that flex fit, so they're very comfortable. And that's kind of what I wanted, was a hat I could wear all day. So those are available. We're selling them for $30, $30 each. But for a Patreon member, we're going to be giving a hat away. So we're going to be drawing that shortly, and after this episode comes out, and we'll make sure that we can send you a hat of your choice of either color. And I'm excited to have these here. Jesse's already posted on the story of him wearing it. I've been fishing wearing mine. And what do you think, Jesse? How do you like the hat choice?
So this has been in the works for a while, and we've talked to a bunch of people that make like merchandise, like hats and shirts and stuff. So it's been in the works for almost a year, trying different hats, trying different shirts. And those hats are actually the most comfortable hats I've worn. And we were very picky. Like, I didn't want to have a random hat. So we got samples, we sent them back, we got other samples. They're very comfortable hats. And the logo is just like a very like, minimalist loon logo. I like it. And I don't know, we don't really believe in like lucky fishing hats, but I'll tell you, I was wearing a regular fishing hat on Saturday out on Lake Erie, and I caught a 3.5 pounder. It was okay. Yesterday, I was wearing an AOA hat and in the Corthus, and I caught a legit almost 5 pounder. So I don't know if that made the difference. I think it did. But from what I know so far in my one day of wearing it, fishing, is that it catches absolute toads in the water. Not literal toads, but fat bass that look like toads. So yeah, definitely get one of the hats. And just remember, any money that we make on these hats is going to Andrew's beard trimming kit.
It's actually any money we're getting reimbursed essentially, because they're pretty much at cost. But yeah. We do want to do some shirts as well coming up soon. So once these hats are gone, again, limited supply of them. But if you want one, hit us up on social media. Something that Jesse will make sure you get in contact with myself. I have the big pile of them sitting at the house. And then we'll get them shipped out and figure all that out for you. But once all the hats are gone, then I'll be looking into getting some t-shirts done in the future as well. So we're just kind of starting on some of our merch. So stay tuned for other stuff soon to come, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Jesse, I realize I'm still hosting. I was like looking at Jesse expectantly. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping for us to finalize the episode.
Yep. So as always, like Andrew mentioned in the podcast, we do appreciate all of our Patreon members. Every single month that we do the podcast, there is about 10 hours of editing and recording per episode. So there is a lot of work involved. We also have to pay for a lot of programs that make the editing easier. We use a lot of, the program we're video recording on now, other stuff, the royalty-free music stuff. So all that stuff does have costs, obviously. So we do appreciate everyone on Patreon who is a supporting member that donates a few bucks a month. It just helps it so that originally when we started the podcast, we were paying it out of our pocket for the first year. So we really do appreciate you guys donating a few bucks. Again, a lot of work's involved. And the fact that you're giving a donation, really, it means a lot. It means that you appreciate the podcast. We appreciate it. And also you are you are entered though easier into the giveaways. So the way that we're doing giveaways now, the same with this giveaway with the hat. If you're a Patreon member, there's going to be a post specifically for you. If you are a supporting member, there's a specific post that you will see. And all you have to do is say, I want this. If you are not a supporting member, we're going to make you do something really annoying. But we'll deal with that another time. But other than that, we're excited for our next episode. We actually have an episode coming up that I know Andrew's going to really like because it's about a lot of weird stuff. But we're not going to... Let me just say it has something to do with a mouse. That's all I'm going to say. So that is all I have for housekeeping. And just one more thing, people. Make sure you drink water. It's hot outside.
Mm-hmm. And liquid IV. If you didn't drink enough water,
so good.
Liquid IV when you get back, and it prevents the migraine the next day. It's really good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And again, I had a blast. I always have a blast doing the Q&As. I know Jesse does too. We like hearing from you. It's a good opportunity to see, get a lot of response from you guys and kind of see what you want to hear about. And oddly enough, you want to hear about our opinions more, which I still don't understand, but we gave them to you. And to finish things off, as tradition states, the quote of the week. And to handle that, there's no guest, so it's Jesse.
I
Did you forget?
about that.
Yeah.
No. Okay, here's the quote of the week. If you're fishing and it's hot outside and you're drinking water constantly, but you ain't going pee, make sure you drink a liquid IV.